Hi, Miqui Otero. You are welcome in my home office.
Nice to meet you. Heiner.
You are from Barcelona. You are also live there. You are a writer and journalist, and you are very familiar with the cultural scene in Barcelona. In 2012, your novel Rayos was published. Literary critics called you the chronicler of Barcelona. In 2020, your novel Simon was published now by Klett-Cott with the translation by Matthias Strobel. There are two readings of your novel. One is the story of Simon growing up, the relationship with his parents, how he begins to work, the relationships with his girlfriends, and the other reading of your novel, which is to read, is a kind of aesthetics of literature, which you find in all novels, certainly, but you introduce the reader very explicitly to the meaning of literature through the books Rico gives his cousin Simon. Which reading is more important for you?
Well, thanks, Heiner. Well, I like to think that there are as many readings as there are readers. Roland Barthes said that the text in a book is like a score, like a music sheet, and that which reader can interpret this music sheet in his own way. And all readings are important to me because all readers are, from the most educated to the most popular, because all the people are important too. But yeah, this book is a defense of the novel as the only invention capable of capturing the quality of experience of a life or of a time. And I think novels, like people, are contradictory, are self-reflective, can be funny and sad at the same time. But yeah, the challenge with Simón was to talk about literature through life and to talk about life through literature. So it's a good reading.
In your novel, Simon, literature becomes, I would say, the life program of the growing Simon. Everything is in the books, page 64. After all, Rico has repeatedly impressed upon him, I quote, that reading was the only way to live many lives instead of just this one. Do young people today read too little?
So question. I don't know. I see a nostalgia trap there. I mean, music was better before. People read more before. Valleys were greener before. Well, this last is probably true because of the climate change, but this is like this in ancient Greece. I mean, but I don't know. Let's drop some data here. In Spain, in 1850, the 75% of the Spanish population was illiterate. They couldn't read. They didn't know how to read. In 1930, it was a 30% of the population who couldn't read. And in 1959, which is almost the 60s, it was a 15% of people who couldn't read, who didn't know how to read. So it's easy to reduce this argument to the absurd. Did the caveman in Atapuerca read more than a contemporary teenager on the bus? No, I mean, no. And yeah, I wish young people would read more, of course. But this novel is not, it's just an invitation to read. It tries to give you the keys to read better, but it's not a reprimand for people who don't read, no? And I think that nostalgia is dangerous, and it's dangerous in life, in literature. It's certainly dangerous in history. And we must talk about the past, but to rethink the present and to shape alternative or better futures, no?
Is Simon a family novel, or is it also an educational novel that accompanies the little Simon's growing up and guides him and interprets the imagination and fantasy?
Yeah, it can be both. It can be both, and a global novel and a social novel. But yeah, I'm super interested in building roman in educational novels because it's the territory of the first times. It's when the character and therefore his destiny is not marked yet. When, as Robert Musil said, you feel things that you can't name, no? And it seemed to me that at this moment of formation, literature, which is always more exaggerated and photogenic than life, would play an important role in the forming the protagonist. I think novels don't give us answers, but they do raise the good questions, and they give us this curiosity that is too good for your life.
Mm-hmm. It is very impressive for me that there are sentences everywhere in your book that underline the scope of literature. Just as artificial, we humans try to restore the ferns of adventure with songs or books that promise action to our lives.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way, because I am a father of two. Both are under 4, so I'm always telling this kind of metaphors now. But for me, literature is like the viruses of the first year in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. I mean, they worry us a lot, but they are not lethal. They are not going to kill the baby. The baby is not going to die. What these viruses do is to generate the defenses in our body for when the adulthood comes. I mean, novels do the same thing. They prepare us for betrayals. They prepare us for romances, for sadness, even for the idea of death. And besides that, I think that in a rather sedentary society, they allow us to discover what a more exciting or epic life would be like. And it's strange because they give us the desire to live this life. At the same time, they satisfy this desire in some way.
Mm-hmm. Question is interesting for me. What came first? The idea of writing about literature, and you then looked for a story and found Simon, or Simon was there first and the stories about literature came afterwards? It's interesting. How did you conceive your story?
I think they came together. Yeah, probably Simon came with a book in his hand, but yeah, I wanted to write this almost 19th century novel between two historical episodes or moments. The Olympic Games in 92 in Barcelona, where there was this almost childlike euphoria, this blind faith in the future, and the Islamist terrorist attack in Las Ramblas in 2017, where everything was sadness and individualism. And for this, I was interested in this character who was a child in 92. And this child had a gift. It was the kitchen. Yeah. He knew how to cook since he was a child. And he had so many dreams because of literature. And he was this kind of little Don Quixote. And in the novels of swordsmen or poets, the main character, the protagonist, started out in a humble environment, and then he get to know a king. Simón would do the same social climbing, but thanks to the books and thanks to the kitchens, no? Because in the 90s and in the 2000s, cooks were like rock stars. They were like swordsmen or like very important people. And I mean, to understand this, his kitchen knife would be his sword. Mm-hmm. And with this knife, he would conquer the world. No?
Rico's disappearance leaves a cousin at a loss. Simon finds the only support in literature. What remains for him are the conversations with his heroes of the books, which I quote once more, ideals and hopes. His cousin brother had turned him to someone who walks with an uplifted gift through a world where only soup is served. Literature can prepare one for life. Does Simon succeed in this?
Well, I think the original quote, it's this man who walks with a fork in a wall where only soup is served. But I don't know. There is this. I don't know if you have read Stoner, the novel by John Williams.
No. Excuse me.
It's a beautiful novel, and there is this quote in which a teacher says to the student, Shakespeare is speaking to you across 3 centuries. Do you hear him?
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful and it's true. I mean, if you're a good reader, you will have the best friends in the world. I mean, history. You can get the wisest, the greatest advice, no? But Simon does not triumph in life thanks to literature. His triumph is learning to fail thanks to literature. To come back, to understand that you have the gift and the responsibility of writing your own life. People will want your novel, your life, to be a bad novel, but you always can look for good scenarios, for good supporting roles, even for magical moments, and that's what Simon does. He learns how to fail, and he finds his place in the world thanks to literature.
Mm. The girls he meets, like Estella, cannot quite share his literary fantasies, but Simon remains true to himself and plays new roles again and again, driven by fantasy and literature. Do these also have an influence on his relationship with women?
Yeah, of course, because you have to think that he always is reading novels from centuries ago, so he relates to women like if he was a medieval knight or a troubadour or something like this.
Yeah.
Which is it's romantic, but it's also sexist, and the novel also tries to consider, to think what is the role of masculinity in a world that has awakened to feminism, no? But yeah, I think we are influenced by everything we read or we listen to. What we read influences us, and I remember I read that in the interwar Vienna in the 20th century, students went to the opera, and then they entered the cafe doing the bows and the postures they had seen on a stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same goes for novels, for rock songs, or for soap operas, no? Mm-hmm. And talking specifically about Stella, Stella is her childhood friend, and as much as Simon tries to act like if he's a rich man, and even if Simon always tries to lie about his past, she has seen him growing up. And she says, I don't know if you remember, she always is saying that she doesn't read novels. She just read essay, books that are about specific things. And Simon replies that in this way, she's missing the books that are about everything, which are the good novels for me, you know? And she's this left-wing activist. And it's strange because I wrote this novel before the pandemics, and Estella already said in the novel that something like this was going to happen. And it's funny, and it's strange when your characters know more than you, than you who have created them, no?
In 2004, Simon is already 20, and yeah. Simon reads again when Rico had written for him the book, I quote, "We often forget that in order to understand who we are, we should not only know where we come from, but also how we got there."
Yeah, the novel tries to think about social class and determinism, if you can get out your origins or not. And he's this boy who grows up in a humble family bar and ends up cooking at luxury restaurants worldwide. And to do so, obviously, talent is not enough. He has to betray, and he has to betray himself. He will have to deny his origins. And it's the typical story of novels I like the most, like Lost Illusions by Honoré de Balzac. It's this kind of character. And in the novel, in Simon, there is this metaphor with the traceability of food. No? How did that fish, that salmon you're about to eat, reach this plate? We have to think about this kind of questions stuff.
Yeah. He meets Candela, I quote, when you are young, you are constantly thinking about who you are, then improvising at crucial moments in such a way that you don't notice how little you know what you are doing. And this does reveal a more or less planned life. Good thing Simon reads so much, exactly according, I quote once more, to plan, because everything is in the books.
Yeah, I love to quote this phrase that it's in the book in Simon, that says that randomness messes up life, but tidies up fiction. I mean, the unexpected can be good for a novel because the novel will be more exciting, but it can be terrible in life. It can be very bad in life, no? And I think that we prepare ourselves to be a determined kind of man, to have a determined life, but then an economic crisis or a near death or loss, or you get fired of work, or a global health pandemic, or a war in Eastern Europe comes and can change everything, no? And then the only thing you can do is to improvise, like the actor who has forgotten his script. It's the same. But everything you have read, everything you have planned, everything you have practiced can help you to improvise better. Yeah. That's what Simon does.
The story of Simon growing up in the context of his family history cleverly reinforces the aesthetics of literature that you present to us here. I quote, "We're just as artificial, we humans try to restore the color of adventure with songs or books that promise action to our lives."
Yeah, that's what I told before.
Same idea?
It's the same idea. We live in this rather sedentary society, and books give us this sense of emotion, of adventure that we kind of miss in our life, no? And this is one of the goals in literature for me.
Okay. And I have a last question or statement. When Rico reunites with Simon, he tries to explain to him why he left. Later, Simon records a sentence that Rico had once underlined. Quote, "Novels are strange entities that place their characters in a historical setting where they do not necessarily play the main role."
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember, some time ago, it was even said that history had ended. In the 90s, there was people that say that. But the fact is that we suffer from historical events, even if we don't have a starring role in them, no? I guess this is a change from novel in the past, where the leading role, the protagonist, the main character, could play an important role in each historical event, no? Now he just suffers them and tries to survive, no? And besides, I think literature also serves to give a leading role to secondary and extras of society, of those that doesn't appear in the newspaper, no? And he can be used to, of not always telling the official story, but to explore the forgotten and the relegated story. That's what I try with Simon. I can talk about very important historical events, but I will always try to look at this kind of people who doesn't star or who doesn't have a stellar role in this event or in this episode.
Thank you very much. Your novel Simon will be published by Klett-Cott this summer with the translation made by Matthias Strobel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heiner. Vielen Dank.
Dankeschön.